It may still be a little chilly out here, but at least it's dry. I think it's time we get this season kicked off for good. Y'all ready to see some corn seed go in the ground? I know I am. Better late than never. All right, before we get going, blowing and going, which we will be doing soon, trust me, we got a few housekeeping items we got to take care of, and then we will be ready to put seed in the ground. Andy's got to carry the fertilizer buggy over to Bo with J&S. When I hooked it up Saturday and gave it a walk around, I noticed a crack on the mount for one of the hydraulic motors for the spreaders, and it's stainless steel. And in the place it is, I didn't feel very comfortable welding it myself. So send it over to Bo with J&S. He's gonna get it welded. We gotta get the water truck filled up. Gotta get this filled up with fuel, and gotta change over the flat fan tips on the sprayer. Plus, waiting on fertilizer to get out here, and everything else should be pretty much ready to go. So we get all that stuff taken care of. I'll see you back out here in the field. Oh man, what a morning it has been. It is now like 1:30, and we just got done planting our sweet corn, a whole 12 rows right here around the end. You might say, well, I thought y'all was out there right as the sun came up. Well, we were. Then Andy had to carry the fertilizer buggy over to Bo's at J&S to weld a crack. Just lay one bead on there, no problem. Got over there, and meantime I was getting tips turned on the sprayer, and Kelly getting the water truck ready, getting everything else ready to go, ready to come to the field. And Andy gives me a call. I was got this crack welded. Tractor won't start, won't do anything. Well, all the power comes on in the cab, but you go turn the key and the engine won't crank. Well, you got it in park? Yeah, it's in park. Take it out of park, put it back in park again. I tried that, I'll do it again. Did it, nothing. Like, what the heck? Took a few tools, went over there, started diagnosing. Sure enough, I mean, it wouldn't crank whatsoever, would not hit a lick. Like, man, checked fuses, checked all the simple stuff, couldn't figure anything out. Finally, I just took a wrench and crossed the terminals on the starter and cranked up, and then Andy said, well, you think now it's started, you think it'll start again? Well, let's try it. It's like a dummy. I had the tractor running, why not just get it back to the shop? I didn't do that, shut it off. Anyway, it wouldn't crank up, so went across the terminals again. And I get the starter to hit, but it would turn the engine over a little bit, and then the gear would disengage from the flywheel, like the magnet or whatever, the spring on it was weak and just wasn't really engaging the engine good. That and the fact the solenoid wasn't clicking, I thought, well, maybe it's a starter. Anyway, we kept on trying. It got the starter good and hot, but it got to where it would just freewheel. It would not engage the flywheel. So I called around, found a starter, a reman starter up in Don Medlin in Missouri. Sent Andy after while I started pulling off the starter. Don Medlin's like, an hour, 15 minutes away. So 2.5 hour round trip. Anyway, I got the starter off, and I was sitting there waiting on him. I had my laptop and everything on there. We doing some diagnostics. The neutral switch was showing is working, and the other safety source stuff that might prevent it from turning over. All that stuff was working. Anyway, just sitting there looking on my phone, and I got to thinking, what if that solenoid is not getting a signal? What could possibly cause that? So got back on my laptop, traced the wiring schematic and everything, and come to find out, the signal from the key switch to the starter goes down through the floorboard through a harness. Well, I've been messing with that harness late last week because I was having problems with the lights and found a wire burn up on the connector where it screws into the bottom of the cab. So I got thinking, well, maybe I didn't get that plug back on there good. Went over there and grabbed it, thing fell right down. Like, you son of a gun. So anyway, I put my old starter back on there real quick, tried it out, tractor fired right up. When all that work, Andy was already on his way back from Don Midland when I figured all that out. And all it was a wiring harness. I didn't get back up on there good because it's in an awkward position. You really can't see and doing it all by feel. Anyway, I'll make sure that sucker's on there good now. So anyway, we finally got everything moved to the field. Got my sweet corn planted. Eddie's started spreading fertilizer. Kelly just got loaded up with chemical. And I'm about to get loaded up with my real corn seed.
It's now 2 o'clock, and after a morning of everything breaking down, I'm finally starting to get to my job, which is spraying burn down in corn. And then Matt plants behind me, and in between me and Matt would be Andy spreading fertilizer. So I'm gonna get this 80 acres knocked out today, and then go from there.
Well, please tell me everything's working right on your tractor and buggy.
Everything seems to be rolling fine now, I believe. I'm not turning the tractor off until we're done. So
Okay. All right. All this seed need to go in the planter, or at least what we can fit in here. We got some decalb corn here. That's right. You don't see a Pioneer on this trailer. We're going to try out some decalb this year, and when I get back in the tractor, I'll explain a little bit why. But we got some decalb 6595 right here, and then we got some 6593. The 6593 is going to be my refuge corn. We're putting in 25% of the units, so we're going to put it in rows 3, 7, and 10. And let's see, I need to count how many bags we got total, and then we'll put it here in the planter. I'll let you know how many bags need to go in each row here. It is now 3:13, and I still haven't put any seed in the ground. You wanna know why? Because that tractor wants to be a butthole. All of a sudden, it just lost battery voltage and started screaming no voltage, and tractor wouldn't go anywhere. Told him to shut it off and turn it back on. Now it's acting like it's a dead battery. I don't know if I got a bad battery connection where I disconnected the battery this morning. I cleaned everything, cleaned the connections up good. Alternator that just went out, alternator that we just replaced a week and a half ago, or bad battery, or something else. The wiring harness it's definitely still on there good and tight, but the tractor just barely will turn over, then start clicking, just acting just like it's got a dead battery. I swear. All right, Andy and I have determined that the alternator is not charging, but the alternator is not bad because we hooked jumper wires up to the wire that excites the alternator and makes it start charging, and it started charging. So we're not getting voltage on the signal wire to the alternator. Fortunately, my laptop that's in the truck, the battery on it's dead, so I can't track down wiring schematics without going back to the shop and charging up my laptop. So I'm hoping maybe I think there's some fuses on here. Maybe got blown. I touched something that I shouldn't have touched when I was putting all this back together. So that's what we're gonna look at while Andy's checking fuses in the fuse box.
So now that tractor is dead. It won't turn or crank. It just stopped, screamed low voltage, and then it just died on Andy. And Matt hasn't planted anything yet. I have sprayed 52 acres, so I'm wondering, do I even bother keep going or just turn off the sprayer and go home? it's already after 3 o'clock and I've sprayed 52 acres, so I guess I'm just gonna turn the sprayer off and wait for further instructions.
All right, let's see if it's charging now. 14.3 volts. Again, the problem was in this wiring harness, the same one that was this morning. The signal wire for the alternator goes through here, and somehow it had gotten pushed way down and was not making connection. Was not making complete circuit, and therefore the alternator didn't know to start charging, therefore it killed the tractor and everything went haywire. You're back in business.
I hope so.
If it breaks down again, just go home and don't even bother calling me, because I don't want to hear it.
Alright, I have filled up for the rest of the day to spray, and then I'll be done in an hour, headed to the house. Carter has baseball practice today, so I have to leave, but I would have been done anyways. I don't know if he's going to get done. They're still trying to figure out what's wrong with the tractor, so something to do with the wiring harness, but he told me to roll on, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Roll on until tomorrow.
All right, that's it. I am done being a mechanic for a day. It's time for me to be a tractor driver. Probably be a tractor driver until early tomorrow morning, because I got to play catch up. It's now 5:30. And all I've done is put about 10,000 corn seed in the ground. I know, it seems like that all we deal with is breakdowns constantly, but this year has definitely been an aberration on early season breakdowns. I mean, literally anything and everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and a good part of them have been nothing but electricals. Some of them my own fault, like this one was kind of my own fault. I took that wiring harness apart to try and fix it. God bless. Not today, not today. Like I took that electrical plug apart to try and fix burn up lighting wire. And then I didn't put it back together good and tight just because it's such in a bad, awkward position. I thought I got it on there, but it didn't. Then vibrated loose. That's caused starting the issue. And then all that, I guess that plug is just not very good. And a couple of the pins had pulled down out of the plug a little bit to where they weren't making contact even when I did get up there good. So I had to push them back up through there. And that was the cause of the charging problem. Oh, Lord have mercy. I tell you what, that software, that bootleg software that I bought for my laptop has done paid dividends, especially today, because there'd been 2 service calls I'd had to get. You know, just the access to the electrical schematics, letting me trace wires, what connectors they go through, showing me the location of the connectors. Invaluable, absolutely invaluable. Hopefully that's the last time I need it for a while. All right, at long last, here we go. Please, for the love of God, everything work. It says it's doing it. Seed's going in the ground at the right population. 100% ground contact. Hallelujah, something has gone right today. It's variable rating it too. All right. I think we might be in business, folks. All right, we planted a little strip. Let's get down here to check our seed depth, make sure she's doing what she's supposed to be doing here. As you can tell, ground conditions are excellent. Well, my seed trench right at 2 inches deep, so let's see where the seed's at. All right, there's one right there. Yeah, she's right there at 2 inches. Let's check another row over here. All right, there it is right there. Yep, right at 2 inches. Once this crown settles down a little bit with the rain, it'll be spot on 2 inches. However, that greenish seed was our refuge, and it's rounds, whereas our other variety is big flat. So you need to check the rows that it's on too, because it might not go quite as far down in the seed trench due to seed shape. So we'll check it too. We might have to adjust those just a little deeper. I lost my pocket knife this morning. That's why I'm using my little ruler to dig, because I ain't got nothing else except a set of keys. It's just been one of them days. Yeah, it looks like that might be closer to 1 3/4 there. Let me check another spot on the row. Hey, look at there. We just kicked up an earthworm with a planter. No, that's right at 2 inches, so I think we're good. Nailed the set on the first time. Called experience. Well, I did forget one thing. I forgot to put the vacuum caps on the vacuum lines going to my front units. And I'm losing a little bit of vacuum right there because there's no seed in the plates on the front units, so it's pulling air through there, causing me to lose a little bit of vacuum pressure. Still planting good, but Kelly just got done spraying. She's going to run back to the shop and get those caps, and we'll put them on the hoses on the front units, and then everything should be good to go. Ain't nothing like water. Sure kind of wish it was a cold beer right about now though. Alright, everything, I wish I had some wood to knock on, is running smoothly. Got our vacuum caps put on. Our vacuum jumped up about 7 points. In fact, I got too much vacuum. Slow it down a little bit here. And seed's going in the ground good. We've got, well, almost perfect conditions. Soil moisture wise, this is some of the driest corn I've planted in quite a while. Of course, we missed that big rainstorm that was predicted late last week. One of the big reasons I didn't plant last week was not only were we supposed to have cold conditions coming in, which we did get some cool conditions, but we were also supposed to get like an 1.5 to 2 inches of rain, and we wound up getting a grand total of 1/4 inch. So if I'd known that was going to happen, we would have been trying to plant last week. But at the time, I made the best decision I could with the information at hand. It just happened to be incorrect information. You know, I wouldn't have had any problem planting into cool conditions because the soil was dry, but I thought the soil was about to get saturated along with cold, and that's just kind of a recipe for disaster. But regardless, you know, the delay between last week and this week, with as cool as the soil conditions have been, you know, there really wouldn't be much difference in emergence. You know, maybe a couple days difference in emergence, not that big of a deal. All right, now I promised y'all an explanation why we're planting decal instead of Pioneer. All y'all have ever seen us plant has been Pioneer. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still a big fan of Pioneer. I think Pioneer's got some fantastic varieties for our region and the maturity that we're planting in. We've made some big yields with Pioneer in the past. But what we found out last year, you know, we kind of already knew, but we really experienced it firsthand. Pioneer and hot, extremely dry conditions just don't go all that well together. Those Pioneer varieties just don't have a lot of stress tolerance, and I think the biggest reason is that Pioneer's varieties tend to be a big flex-eared variety, whereas DeKalb and a lot of others tend to have more of a fixed ear variety. And the big difference is that when you have a flex ear variety, well, the plant has the ability to adapt to the conditions that it's experiencing. If you've got really good conditions and got plenty of nutrients, the corn's not wanting for anything, well then a flex variety has the ability to have a lot bigger ear than normal because it's got all the ingredients to make a bigger ear. But then on the flip side, when it doesn't have everything it needs, it'll flex down and it can go in the tank. Whereas with DeKalb has primarily fixed ear varieties where it puts on rough, you know, regardless of the conditions, it's largely going to put on the same size ear all across the board. And to get big yields, you generally have to plant higher populations because the ear size is not going to flex up if you get the really good conditions to make big yield. So that's why I've been a big fan of Pioneer. We can plant a lower population, save a little bit on seed cost, but if the conditions are there to make big yield, we can make bigger yield with a lower population. But where DeKalb really going to shine, and we saw it last year in our test plots, is that because it's got a fixed ear variety, even if it comes under big, you know, extreme conditions as far as drought and everything, it's still going to put on an ear. Might not be a great ear, it might have a ton of tip back, but it's still going to put on an ear with kernels, whereas with Pioneer, that's what we saw last year. It just didn't do it. We had a lot of areas of the field that had, you know, barren stalks, didn't have any ears on them just because of the extreme drought we experienced at the worst possible time, which was right there around pollination. But that being said, that's not the biggest reason we're going with quite a bit of DeKalb this year. My most trusted friend, who has been my Pioneer rep for, gosh, 10, 12, 13 years, he resigned from Pioneer and took a job with another ag company, and his new job has given him the ability to look at all the different varieties from all the different manufacturers, not just Pioneer. This guy knows my ground just as well as I do, and when it comes to corn, that's one of the big secrets to making big yield, is putting the right variety on the right piece of ground at the right population. And all these other reps from the other companies, you know, they just don't know my ground the way that I do, and therefore they can't give me as good of advice as someone who knows my ground. They might give me a great variety, and they might give me a great planting rate recommendation, but if they don't give me a great recommendation and I put it on the type of ground it needs to go to, and I put it on the wrong farm, it can fall flat on its face, which we definitely don't want. But anyway, this friend of mine, he's had the chance to look at a lot of different varieties and compare them, you know, especially against the Pioneer varieties I have been planting. And, you know, because I'm a little gun shy because of the drought last year and not wanting to put all my eggs in one manufacturer's basket, we got some really fantastic varieties from DeKalb we're trying out this year for the first time. And I'm putting a lot of my DeKalb varieties on my tougher ground, my more drought prone ground, just in case we have a repeat of last year. I don't think we will. We're forecast to have an El Nino this year, which should mean plenty of rainfall during the growing season. But this variety, it should do great if we have great conditions. It should be a pretty top yielder for the type of ground. And then if we don't have good conditions, I think it's still got a lot of good stress tolerance too. Then there's another DeKalb variety, an older one, full season, that, I mean, it's been neck and neck with the top Pioneer varieties for a lot of years. And we're going to put it on some of our better ground. And then we're still going to have a couple of Pioneer varieties in there too, like 1464. Done fantastic for us for quite a few years. Definitely going to be planting it too. Really excited to see what these newer varieties are going to do this year. I know for what they cost me, they better do good. Corn seed took a tremendous jump this year. I mean, a tremendous jump. I'd say my corn seed cost went up probably about 10% this year.